Yay! Okay, finally we're starting. Animation in Unity. Let's get started. So, why do we care about animation? Pretty obvious answer. It makes things look like they're moving. It makes games engaging. So we have two different styles of animation here. We have 3D, where you have these bones that kind of deform the mesh. And we have 2D, which is usually sprite sheets, where you just swap really quickly between the sprites to make it look like it's moving. We're going to be focusing on the 2D part, because 3D is much harder. I don't really know how to do it. And that's my reason. So next slide, we should have Unity. So Unity has 4 kind of features that we're going to talk about on how to put an animation in the game. These are 2 of the components. If you haven't used Unity before, every feature, like component is something you add to an object to make it do something. So there's a component for a collider. There's a component for gravity. These are 2 components for animation. There's the animation component, which is basically just a container of clips. Animation clips are something else we'll talk about. The animator, very similar names, but the animator is kind of the controller. So it'll take a controller object, which kind of determines how your animation will work. And we'll talk about that in the next slide, which is the 2 file types. File types, kind of objects, whatever. But the controller is like this state machine. You've probably seen something like this before, where you transition between states. And you can see the arrows we have going between the 2, so you can go from idle to walking, walking to running. But you can't go from running to jumping, because running comes from any state. So that's like the barest minimum what an animation tree would look like, and that's something we'll make in this workshop. Very simplified, though. The animation clip is actually what's responsible for animating. So it's more the traditional like timeline with keyframes, and you can kind of decide how your animation will work. And we'll also look at that, and we'll get to make our own animation at the end. But those are all like the basic features for animating, and now we're going to get started. So Kaye's going to pull up the project, and if you have the project files, you can try opening them in Unity to see, and we'll take a quick pause to see if people are able to open them. Fingers crossed, everything works. But I basically made a small little scene with some sprites. There's a knight who can attack, and there's a mushroom who will walk back and forth. And depending on your frame speed, I hear he can go really, really fast. So that might look funny, but we can change the speed of that. But there's no animations, crucially, because we're going to be adding those. If you're worried about coding, there's not going to be a lot of coding in this. There's going to be small little lines that we have to add, but most of the animation work happens with the GUI. So that's nice if you're worried about learning how to program, which is a whole different workshop, which we might cover some other time. Yeah.
All right. In terms of downloading and adding the project, if you guys downloaded it from Discord, it's in the announcements chat.
Yes.
You can download it, and it will be zipped, so you're gonna have to unzip that. Once you get that downloaded and unzipped, you're gonna go to Unity Hub, and you're gonna click this Add button with the arrow. Then you're gonna click Add Project from Disk, and you are gonna go to the folder that we just downloaded. This one. Click Open.
So it probably would open on a blank scene like this. There's a scene called Game in the files. If you double click that, it should open into the scene we'll be working in. And look at that. Beautiful. Okay. A few more minutes. Let's see. I think we can start. If anyone isn't ready who wants to participate, just let us know. But we're going to go ahead and get started on how to animate. So let's first play the project and see what we're working with. And see if the mushroom goes really fast, like I was told.
Oh.
Oh, look at that, he's normal speed. So you can see we're moving around, the mushroom's moving around, and nothing is moving. It looks kind of bad. So we're going to try to fix that using animations. So we have several sprite sheets that we're going to be using for animating these things. So if you go to the sprites folder and go into the soldier, we're going to start with the player. Let's see, let's double click the idle. No, don't double click.
Yep.
Sprite editors. I'm so sorry.
No, you're totally good.
It's a sprite sheet. So all the sprites are on one file. So in Unity, you have to go in and you have to slice them up so Unity knows which sprite is which, and it doesn't just make them all one picture. So if you want to see, you can click the sprite editor, and most of the time it does it for you. Sometimes you have to go in there and manually edit, but you can see these boxes around each sprite. That's just saying these are different sprites, so Unity can animate it. So it does that mostly automatically, which is very nice for us. So we're going to go ahead and create an animation. We're going to start with idle, player idle. So if you're just standing there, we want the player to like kind of do whatever this is, idling. And it's very easy to do that. All we have to do is click the sprite sheet and drag it into the scene view. Make sure you don't click any of the things here, because then it'll make it a material and kind of break stuff. So you want to click like outside, but it should ask for you to name your new animation. And we're going to call it player idle. Very simple, very straightforward. And you're going to want to save that somewhere. And it's going to create three things. It's going to create a sprite in the scene. It's going to create an animation clip of your actual animation. And it's going to create an animation controller, or that animator that controls the motions. We want two of those things. We don't want this sprite in the scene because we already have a player here. We don't want two of them. So in the scene view, we can go ahead and delete that sprite that it makes. Then if we go and we click our controller, I can't really see it. Maybe over here is better. If we double click our controller, it should open up that graph view I was talking about. And you can see we start at the green one, entry, and it goes to player idle, which is the one we just created. You can see that it's yellow, which means default state. So as soon as the animation starts, it's going to be playing that player idle animation. What is that player idle animation? If we double click the animation clip that was created, it'll open that window for us with the timeline. And you can see these dots up here are the keyframes. And if we really looked at it, we would see all it's doing is telling the sprite to swap to the next sprite in the line, and that's how it animates. So Unity does all of that for us. We could do this manually. We don't want to, because that's a lot of, if your sprite sheet is like 50 sprites long, that's a lot of repetitive tasks. So it does it all for you, which is very nice. So we don't have to mess with any of that stuff. Let's close that. And now we have to connect our controller to the animator on the player. So in the scene view, if you click the player, in the inspector on the right-hand side, you should see all the components attached, and there should be an animator component attached at the very bottom. You can see, and under controller, it's empty. We want to assign that to the new controller that we just made. So if we go ahead and do that, dragging it in, that should be it. So now if we click play, we should hopefully see our little knight doing one of these. And look at that, we can. It's going a little fast, but it is animating, and that's better than it was before, if only slightly. Great. So now let's add some more animations. We have two others, walking and attacking. We're going to start with walking. So we can get our little knight walking around, so it looks slightly better. So pretty much the same process as before. We're going to find our walking sprite sheet, drag that into the scene. It's going to ask us to create a new animation. We're going to call it player walk. We'll save that, and again it's going to create those three things: a controller, a clip, and a sprite. We already have a controller, that's the player idle, so we can go ahead and delete the controller that it makes, because all we care about is the clip. We can also delete the sprite, because we already have our own sprite, and it's going to be swapping between those. as the animation progresses. So all we really care about is the clip. Now, how do we connect that clip to the animation? We put it into the animation controller. So if we double click our player idle, we double click that and open our graph view, we can just drag that clip into the graph view and it'll create a new box for us. Player walk. Very simple. But it's not connected to anything. So if you right click those boxes, you'll get a whole bunch of options. The one we're interested in is make transition. We want to be able to go from idle to walking. So if you right click the orange one, make transition, and then click the next box, we've created a transition from idle to walking. But we also want to be able to go back to idle once we stop walking. So we're going to make the same thing, just going backwards. Make transition to player idle instead of walking. Perfect. But if we played this, nothing would happen again because there's no conditions. Unity doesn't know when should the player walk, when should it be idle. All we've done is say they're kind of connected. So you can see it's kind of just switching between them. It tells you which one's running. They're just going back and forth. We don't want that. So we have to put some conditions in there. Again, it's very simple to implement, but this is sort of where the coding comes in because we have to trigger the condition switching. And that'll make more sense as I explain this. On this left-hand side here, where it says layers and parameters, we want to create a new parameter. This is just going to be a Boolean true-false operation that says we are moving now, we are not moving now. And using that, we'll be able to tell which animation should play. So if you click the parameters tab, click that plus, we want to create a bool, and we want to call it walk. It's very important how you spell this, because we will be referencing it in the code. Just lowercase all walking, just like that. Should be easy enough to remember. So now we want to connect that to our transitions here. So if you actually click those little arrows, it will bring up a menu on the side, the inspector over there. And we want to add a condition. Where it says conditions, click that plus. It'll auto-fill in, I believe. Yeah, because we only have one. But we want player idle to go to player walk when walking is true. So I think it auto does that for you if you just click add condition. But going back, we click that next arrow, we want to go back to idling when we stop walking. So we're going to make a new transition or a condition, set that to false. So now it'll only go between those states if that bool is triggered. If it's true, it'll be walking. If it's false, it'll be idle. Something else very important, Unity has blending between animations. And if you've ever animated before in 3D, you might know the computer is able to blend between two different animations. So if one poses like this and the other poses like this, the computer can kind of animate between them. That doesn't work in 2D because they're sprite sheets. There's nothing to interpolate between. So over here on the side where it says has exit time, we want that to be off because we don't want it to be blending at all. We don't want it to end at a certain time. We just want it to play when it's playing and stop when it's stopping. So on both of those transitions, you'll have to check has exit time, make sure that's off. Okay. If we play it now, though, guess what? It still doesn't work because we didn't trigger the bool to change. So here's the part where we go into the code. And if you're worried, it's one line of code. I really hope all of you can do that. Should be pretty straightforward. The script is called player animation. So it should be in the C# folder, player animation. You can go ahead and open that up in whatever environment you're using. Rider is my favorite, personally. You can use VS Code. I won't judge you that one. Okay. We have it open. I've done all the movement programming myself, and I've set up these triggers to trigger when you move and when you attack. It's not just built in like this. That's all pre-programmed. But for the sake of this workshop, these are triggered when you move. These are triggered when you attack. So in the moving method, we're going to type, well, first we need a reference to our animator, which is up here. Anim is what I called it. So we're going to type anim dot, and we want to set the bool of walking to be true if we're walking, false if we're not walking. So we can type anim dot set bool. It should autocomplete for you, which is a very nice feature. Then here's that string I mentioned. We want to put the parameter of walking in. So make sure you spell it exactly like you did. It should be a string. So make sure you have those quotes by it. And then we're going to set it to the bool that's passed in, because it's this method is called when you're walking and when you stop walking. So is moving will be true when you're moving. It'll be false when you're not moving. So instead of setting it to true and false, all we have to do is set it to that is moving operator or Boolean argument. I can't remember all these keywords. Oh yeah, that's a string. Yeah, I don't like string references, but this is how I learned how to do it. I should also mention there's a million different ways to make animations in Unity. This is just one of the ways. There's more complicated ways where you don't have to use strings and stuff, but for the sake of this workshop, we're making it very simple. Now, everything should work. We've set up our transitions, we've set up our condition, we've set up the code. So now if we play, let everything compile, we should see the idle idling and the walker walking. And let's see what we got. We got idling, we got walking, we got idling, we got walking. Look at that. Animations. That wasn't that hard. I think the mushroom got faster. Let's go. I don't understand. Maybe your frame rate changed. Whatever.
Potentially.
Yay! We got
Yippee.
walking and idling. Probably the two most important for this demo at least. But we still have one more thing for the player. We have attacking. And attacking we're going to call a little bit differently, but setting it up is the exact same way. We're going to take the attack. There's two of them, so you can pick which one you want to use. I just thought that was fun. I got all these sprites for free off the internet, and it just had a whole bunch in there, so I kept two. I think we have like a sideways slash and we have an overhead slash. So you can pick which one you want. They should be the same time. But we're going to drag that sprite sheet, whichever one you pick, into the scene, create the animation. You can name it player attack. And again, it's going to make those three things: clip, controller, sprite. We don't want the sprite. We don't want the controller because we already have one. All we care about is that clip. You can delete those other things. And then in our controller, we can drag that clip in. And we want the player to be able to attack at any time. And so we could make a transition from idle and walking, but it's easier if we just grab the any state and make the transition there. So if you right-click on any state, make a transition, and set it to player attack. And now, no matter what state we're in, if the condition is triggered, it will attack. Very simple. We also want to be able to exit that state. If you don't put an exit one in there, it'll keep playing that animation forever. So we're actually going to put it to player idle. Exit is a weird condition. We're going to use it later for the enemy, but it doesn't like stop the animation. It just kind of kicks it back to the front. But in this case, after you're finished attacking, we want you to idle. And the computer is fast enough, so if you finish attacking but you're moving, it'll put it back to idle, but then it'll realize, oh, the condition for walking is true, and it'll set it to walking pretty much instantly. So it kind of blends it together like that. Cool. Is this how I did it? We might not need the any state. I don't think we need the any state transition, actually. That might be the other one. Again, I said I'm not a professional. I'm a student like you all. If you press the delete key or the backspace, it might get rid of it. That's fun. I guess we have to restart the whole workshop.
Oh, okay, I got it.
With backspace?
I clicked a minus button in the inspector. It was
Okay.
this one right here.
All right, I guess. Why have consistent?
Right.
But yeah, so we're going to be calling this animation directly because we only want it to play once. It's just attack once, go back to whatever you were doing. So we don't need like a to transition. I'm remembering that now. So in the code, we have to call it. Luckily, I have a method that triggers every time you attack. So if we go back to our code, we should see that attack method. So this slightly different syntax we're going to use. We're still using anim, so it's still going to be anim dot. We're still calling the animator. But instead of set bool, it's going to be play. And play wants the animation clip to play. So again, here's where you have to be specific with your strings. We want play or attack, I believe, because that's what it's called. And if you're using Rider, sometimes it can recognize the animation clips you're using and fill that in. Sometimes it doesn't, though. I'm not sure why. That you want to call that the same name as the animation you created. So for us, that's play or attack. And that should be it for just calling that attack animation. Very simple to add that. So now if we play, and the controls are weird. I didn't bother changing the default controls. To attack, you can either press the enter key or you can click. I don't know why those are the default, but that's how it is. Yay! Is it just playing once?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yay! Wonderful. So, just some notes on that animation if you want to maybe customize it a little bit. Oh yeah, the enemy will also die if you click it. We'll set that up in a bit. Apparently, he just stopped. Beautiful. But if we actually look at what's going on, if we click that transition between the two, we can kind of get some details. So we'll notice the has exit time is true for this one. And we want that to be true because we want it to exit. It plays for a certain second, and then it stops. So you attack, you stop. That means it won't loop. In the settings, if you click that little drop down, you'll get a whole bunch of settings on like how long do you want it to play. I can't read all those. Yeah, so how long you want it to play, if it's a fixed duration or not, how it should be interpolated. Most of that stuff is for 3D stuff. And you can see this like line here, that's for 3D blending that I mentioned. We're not doing that because it's 2D. It doesn't matter so much when you're just calling it like this. But sometimes that can mess up 2D animation, but for us it's okay. But yeah, those are just some settings if you want to change it. I believe if you click maybe the thing in the controller, just the player attack box, you can change how fast it is. Yeah, so there's a speed up there. So if you want to slow it down or speed it up, you can totally do that. But yeah, that's the player done. We've animated the player. Yippee. We have a few more for the enemy. We have him walking, we have him getting hit, and we have him actually dying when the player hits him enough. And all of those are going to be created in the exact same way that we did the first one, except now we have an enemy controller instead of the player controller. So if you go to the mushroom sprite, you can start to drag in those sprite sheets. And you can have one called mushroom idle, or not idle, sorry. There's no idling because he's always walking. So the default would be mushroom walking, or mushroom walk, mushroom mushroom hurt, mushroom die, just some name suggestions. Yeah, so again, it's made all three of those things for each of them. We don't want the sprites, we already have the sprites. We want one of the controllers. So make sure you save one of them. It doesn't really matter which one. I would recommend saving the running one, or the walking one, whatever I named it, just because that's the default state. So it makes it easier to set up. And then keep all the clips as well, because we'll need those. But yeah, now, we should probably attach our controller that we just made to the mushroom. So if you click the enemy object, drag that controller into the enemy animator right there. So now it's connected. And now if we double click that animator, we can open it up and see. If you didn't make mushroom run your default, you can right click it and then click set layer default. It's grayed out here, but it's set as their default state. That just means that's the one that'll start playing when you open up the animation. Now we can drag our clips in. Again, it's very repetitive once you know what you're doing. And then we'll make our transitions between them. So mushroom run will transition to mushroom hit, I believe, is how I did it. Oh boy, I don't remember. No, other way around. Whoops. So yeah, figure out how to delete that again. We're going from mushroom hit to mushroom run because we're going to be calling hit directly every time he gets hit, and it's going to transition back into running after the hit is done. And then mushroom die is going to go to exit. Now exit it doesn't cancel the animation like I said, it kind of just resets it, but we're going to be using that to make him stop animating a little later. So that's just the connection there. So that should be what it looks like, I'm hoping. The mushroom hit, if you're wondering why we don't have conditions this time, it's because when the mushroom gets hit, that's just a set animation, just like our attack. So it's going to play for a certain amount of time and then stop. Same thing with the die, it's going to play for a certain amount of time and then stop. So we don't have to have any conditions, because we're just calling them directly. So the has exit time rule will be true for both of those transitions. Now all we have to do is call the hit and the die in the code. And we're going to do that the same way we did as in the attack. So we're opening enemy animation this time. And you can see where I marked the animation. We're going to be calling anim.play again. And you want to name these the same name you gave the clips you dragged in. Again, if you're using Rider, it's very nice. Although not this time. Mushroom run, I guess again. Yeah, so for hurt, we want to play mushroom hurt. For death, we want to play mushroom death, or mushroom death, whatever you call it. Perfect. And that should be the whole mushroom animation done. I hope. I should have grabbed some water or something. Really testing my memory here. This a few moments ago. How's everyone doing, by the way? You caught up? Not making sense? No? Oh, so sorry.
I'll watch the video later. It's fine.
It's not getting hit.
Huh. Invalid.
Okay, it looks like it couldn't find the state. Are they named right? That's my first thought.
Mushroom die, mushroom hit, and mushroom.
We don't have a lot of time, so it's hard to like.
Oh, it's die and hit. Wow, I completely misnamed them.
Appreciate you being here.
I do want to learn this.
Okay. There we go.
There we go.
Die. Oh. Oh wait. Beep beep beep.
It's to the side, and you can't move back. Like, why?
Okay, I got distracted. Was it working?
Yes.
Perfect.
It does die.
Wonderful. So it should be running now. And when you hit it, it should do the little hit animation. And if you hit it enough times, it should play the death animation. But uh-oh, it looks like it just looped again. So now he's running, but he's not moving. And you also can't hit him because he's technically dead. So we want to stop the animation. We're going to do this in kind of a funky way. This is how I was told how to do it. I'm 100% sure there's another way. Don't take this as gospel. This is just how we're going to hack it together. We're going to use something called an animation event. That is something that is triggered inside the animation clip at a certain frame. So if we go to the enemy die animation clip, it'll open that timeline bar again, and you can see all the keyframes. Yes, it doesn't want to
Oh, there we go.
So we can see each frame of the sprite. We want to add an event, and it's a really obvious button. This one, it looks like a banner. I have no idea why it looks like that, but if you hover over it, it'll say add animation event or add event, something like that. Yeah, add event. And we want to do that, and we want to put it at the end. We want to we want to trigger the event to turn off the animator at the end. So I think if you click that and then click the end, it should put it right there. So now it should trigger at the end. I'm just going to go ahead and say it triggers a frame late for some reason. So if we put this at the end and tell it to stop animating, it'll stop animating on the next frame, which just happens to be when he gets back up and starts walking again. So we actually want to put it the frame before the last frame, so it has time to call and then trigger before he gets back up again. You just kind of have to experiment with that, I guess. Timing and stuff is strange. Okay, now we have our event. We have to register it to something, because currently on the right there it says none object, no function, all the things are zeros. So we want to register this to a method that I made in the enemy animator called turn-off, which turns off the animator. Pretty straightforward. So I think if you click that button on the side for the object, you can either search for it or you could drag it in, actually. Dragging it in might be easier if you don't remember what you called it, because I never do. I forget all the names of my stuff. So yeah, if you just drag that script in, and then it doesn't let you select which function. If you used Unity before, there's Unity events, which kind of lets you drop down to pick what you want. Here it doesn't do that. You just have to type in turn off. I don't know why. It's strange, but it's camel cased, so first letter of each word is capital, and then I don't know if you need the parentheses. I don't know how it does that. I don't know how accurate it is. But if I remembered everything right, it should now turn off the animator at the end. And we can look at the code that turns off the animator. If we're curious. He dies, and he stops moving because the animator has turned off. So now he just kind of is laying there. It's okay. We'll come back to life if we press play. And that's animation. Very simple, very straightforward. We have one more thing just for fun. It's making your own animation clip. So we have a canvas that's grayed out on the scene view that just is a blank screen that says play game on it. So you know some games have a fun menu transition as you click play game. It like slides away or it like fades. We're going to do something like that. So if you open the canvas on that game view, it should have a panel, and on that panel should be an animation. I believe that's the other component I mentioned at the beginning. This one is just a container of clips. So we're going to make a clip. How do we do that? Right click in the files, and then Unity 6 change where everything was. So it might be under a different name than you're used to if you use Unity. But animation, and then we should see animation clip. We're just going to make a new one, call it Move UI, Move, whatever. The name doesn't matter on this one. We're just going to be making our own. Okay, so here's another little hacky thing that I've been doing this forever. So it probably won't get depreciated, but this animation clip is currently set up to be used for a controller. We don't have a controller, we just want to use it by itself. So what we're going to do is in the top right in the inspector, we're going to click those dots and we're going to debug view. Yeah, so it's checked normal, we're going to go to debug, and there should be a box that says legacy on there. If you check that, it'll switch from using the controller framework to using just like a regular clip framework, so it can just play by itself. If you don't do that, I think it'll still work, but it'll throw you a lot of warnings, and it'll also tell you exactly how to change it, so you don't have to worry if you forget. But yeah, so once you do that and you switch back to normal view, a lot of the options are gone, and all it has is wrap mode. That means how do you want it to continue playing once it stops. So I think default is looping. I think you can set it to like bounce back and forth, but if you click that drop down, you can see them all. We're just going to use default for now. So now we have to attach that clip to the canvas, to that panel object. You can do that just by dragging it in. You can do it that way? That's crazy. I didn't even know that. Apparently you can just drag right onto the object and it assigns it. That's fine. So you can see on the animation we have our clip attached. And play automatically is checked off. I think it's on by default. We don't want it on because we want it to play when you click the button, which has already been set up. I did that already, but it's a button. All you have to do is like click the event and then click what you want to run. I have a method that runs that for you, so it should work. Now we get to make our animation, which is the fun part. So we're going to want to double click that clip and open it up, and you're going to want to dock it somewhere where you can see the scene view. So you can put it at the bottom there, you can put it, maybe not on the side because then it's vertical, but like somewhere where you can see the clip and you can also see the scene. Because we're going to use the recording feature to make our animation. We could manually enter like every position we want it to go to, every value we want it to be, or we could just do that and have Unity record it for us. I like that option more. So you're going to want to make sure in your animation clip you have the Move UI thing here. I think if you don't have that, it'll be a gray box and it'll say like make a clip because it doesn't detect one. So make sure that that's there. Then you're going to want to zoom out on your scene view so you can see the panel, the play game panel. The UI is real big. It's really fun to zoom in and out of when you're making UI. So you want that to be nice and visible. And we're going to make an animation. Very straightforward. Click. So if we click record, that's that little button here. It should go all red to let us know that we're in recording mode. Is it working?
It's this little button, right?
Yeah. Try clicking, maybe selecting your panel, like in the. Sometimes it's finicky.
Boop. There we
go.
go.
So I guess it doesn't say create new, it just grays it out, which is really misleading. But make sure it's there, make sure you can click that add property button as well. Then that means it's working. So now you should be able to click record it. And it should, yeah, you can see the top changes to red. And we want to record. So we're just going to make it slide to the left. That seems easy enough to do. So we want it to take maybe 25 frames or seconds. I don't remember which one those are. I think it's frames. You can kind of just pick a time and experiment with it. But we can drag that little white bar to 25. Maybe on the top. There we go. And now, if we move that, just like drag it, you can use whatever tool you want. So move it to the side. You can see it creates a property because it's recording our movements. So it set one at the beginning, which was its default position, and it's setting one here, which is going to be whatever position it ends up there. So now it did a lot of the work for us because if we go back to 0, or we click that play button, we can see it's going to slide. Very nice. And that's the animation. You can go crazy with this. You can make it go up, you can make it go down, you can make it swirl. You can also change colors and stuff. When you're recording, it'll record any changes you make. So if we want to make the button fade from white to red for some reason, we can go into the panel, and it'll do what like any children attached to the panel as well. So attached to the panel is a button. If we click the button, we can change its color, and because our bar is on 20 now, it'll make it at 20, and then it'll make a default value of white because that's where it started. But you can make it any color. You can also do it manually. If you click add property, it'll list all the properties you can change, and you can add them, and you can really do whatever you want. Oh, look at that.
What's happening?
A crash. We love Unity, everybody. But yeah, so once you set up your animation, if you play the game and you click play game, it should play your animation. It might loop it depending on stuff. I don't remember. It just kind of does sometimes what it wants.
Oh.
Well, it remembered your animations at least.
Yep.
It didn't completely crash everything. Yeah. Let's see. Anyone make a fun animation that you're really proud of in the 5 minutes since you learned how to do it? But yeah, that's all that we prepared. Thank you very much for listening to me and for Kaye for controlling everything. Animation controller. We have a video, right? You've been recording?
Yes, I've been recording.
So, if you want a refresher, if you want to send it to someone just randomly, you can. We have a video.